All right, so if we're following along, I'm going to pass it over to you, Vice Chair, if you want to go ahead and get us started for our first item on the agenda.
And so first for roll call, we do have Dr. Lyons with us. We have Peter Windrum with us. Marina Delagianis is representing Water Resources, as I don't see Scott DeLeon here today. I'm here, and we'll go ahead and let EJ be added in once he's here as far as the minutes goes. Next step is any extra items on the agenda, and I did speak with Supervisor Crandall this morning about that. We have had a meeting to discuss the future of these meetings. Do we keep going exactly as regularly as we have, or do we spread them out a little bit more to give time to staff to really accomplish the work that we're asking them to accomplish? So I want to have that conversation and add that on, since that will affect our next meeting. Wanted to make sure that we do it now rather than later. So if everybody's okay with that, adding that discussion, we'll get to it at the end of the agenda. Okay.
I am good with that.
So let's go ahead and move on to action number 3, and that is the approval of the minutes. There were minutes that were submitted to us. Thank you for not only providing the minutes, but also whoever typed them up. I don't know if that was Daniela last time or not. But always appreciate the fact that there's a lot more than just the actions that are taken. It really gives us a good insight as to what was discussed during the meeting. Any questions, changes from committee members, or else I'm looking for a motion?
I move that we approve these minutes. I spent some time reading them over, and they're good.
I second those. That motion, and I second also Supervisor Bruno, your comments about them. They're extraordinary.
Yeah.
Appreciate it.
So we have a motion from Dr. Lyons, a second by Peter Windrum, and any opposed? Nope, and so that means that we all approve. Let's go ahead and move on to item number 4, and Marina, I think this is where you take off.
Yes, thank you so much. Good morning, everyone. So I have an update for our project area parcel acquisition. So similar to Matt last month, I have these broken down by the 2 consultants that we have. So first off, just a real quick update. We still have the parcel tracking map. As a refresher, here is how folks can get there. Let me pull this up. So nothing has changed since we presented this last month, and I'll dive down deeper into the details. So if folks want to follow along and get access to that parcel map, we walked through how to get there last month. Same route, it's on the Water Resources website, and once there is an update, Daniela goes in and updates the map. So this is always updated to the best of our ability. As soon as changes happen, we go in and update this. So again, nothing has changed for the parcel area tracking map. So looking down into Paragon Partners, the parcels that they are working on. Ortega, again, we have acquired that parcel. We are still working with developing a lease agreement with Ortega. For Oldham, as of 4/1, the title company did receive the check from DWR, so they are in the process of closing those funds. And again, I'm working on that timeline now. Things are up in the air with COVID. We're finding that, of course, things are taking a little bit longer to get from DWR to our hands or the title company's hands. So still working on that timeline to get a better idea. But with our conversations with DWR, they have multiple offices within themselves. So our grant manager is oftentimes the one not moving things around. She can be out of the dark as well as us. So again, little frustration there, but good news for that is the title company did receive that check from DWR to close the escrow. So from Monument, we have had a lot of great conversations the last few weeks. So similar to what we had last month, there are 17 different owners and 29 parcels remaining. And then DWR, so we had, DWR did receive the 2 appraisals on 3/16 for review. They're still in the process of reviewing those appraisals. Again, that's Sealy and Wrench, that's one appraisal. And then Fries and Mendoza, that's the second appraisal. On 3/29, DWR staff members are our program manager, Nancy Snodgrass, us here with Lake County Water Resources and Monument had a discussion. We're going over the parcels that we have been doing the surveys on, going over the project area boundaries. So we were able to clarify a few questions that we had for DWR, and they were able to point us in the right direction. So it was nice to have that sit down with everyone just to make sure we were all on the same page, and answer some of those outstanding questions that we had in terms of the survey lines. And again, Concert and Monument are still getting to work on clarifying some of those appraisals, the ones that they have not been able to finish. So they're still working on those. And Daniela was actually out there today, and she did see some equipment for surveyors. So we know that they're actively going out, continuing on with those surveys, the ones that they still had outstanding questions on. In terms of, and what we informed Monument on, as we stated last month, if they were getting any sort of non-responsiveness from parcel owners, they were to report to us directly here at Lake County Water Resources. And from then we would make initial additional efforts to contact those outstanding willing sellers and whatnot. So the ones that we have been directed by Monument to follow up with, since they haven't had feedback or response from after their second letter that they sent out, is Vetsmidian, Whitfield, Wilkerson, and Luna Gaming. So we are giving all those folks a call and sending out a letter by 4/8 to make those additional correspondence with those sellers who we still have not deemed whether they are willing or not willing. Just because we have not gotten a response from those folks does not mean we are not willing. That's why we at the county are making additional efforts to have those correspondence with those parcel owners. Any questions?
Are there any questions from any committee members? Dr.
Yeah, I
Lyon?
had a question. It said DWR received 2 appraisals on 3/16 for review. Then there's 3 owners listed. So were there 3 appraisals or too many names, or which?
No, so there's 2 different appraisals. One appraisal is Sealy and Wrench, and then one appraisal is Fries and Mendoza. So it's just who is outlined as an owner on that property, but they're 2 different appraisals, just 4 different owners technically, 2 on each appraisal.
Okay, so I saw your end sign as a slash and your slash. as
Yeah,
an
I know.
end.
I was typing that. I was like, that's kind of confusing. So I apologize.
Okay, no, I got it now. Thank you.
One question.
Yes.
Yeah, meeting with DWR and Monument. As to meetings with Monument, of course, I assume that's Jeremy, but have we ever had anyone else from Monument, a superior of his, in as much as I believe he's an employee of that company, in order to participate, have them brought up to date and our concerns as well?
No, so in email correspondence, we've had Jeremy's superior on those email threads, but Jeremy is the one doing the work, especially with consultants. Oftentimes their CEO or their president is very out of the dark on the projects, the specifics, the ins and outs of the projects. So unless we request that, we don't usually invite them. And DWR was the one that set up this meeting, as DWR and Jeremy have that funnel line of communication between them. Previously, we had Celia be that middleman, but now just with how quickly this project is moving and all the ins and outs, I'm having Jeremy contact DWR directly and including me in those correspondence. So
Okay.
it was Nancy and Jeremy who set up the meeting. So we did not have Jeremy's superior there.
Okay,
But we did have, it was Director Scott DeLeon, myself, Mike Concert, and Jeremy on that call. And I believe Daniela called in as well.
okay, good, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Yes.
I sure hope those 4 don't just get added on to the naughty list. We need them to say yes and not no, or else that just complicates things for all of us.
Yes, exactly. So that's why we're going to make multiple efforts. So including a phone call. If we have to go out there and visit them, then we definitely will here at Water Resources. So we're going to make every effort that we can to make those correspondence to get them on our nice list.
I appreciate you doing that. I think it's important to know with I don't want to say the little money we have left, but in all reality, it's not a huge amount of money when it comes to the project that we're dealing with here. And to know who can actually be approached to purchase their property and who can't with the money that we have, to make sure that we use that money appropriately and correctly. So appreciate
Exactly. And then going off of that, Supervisor Spatier, so for example, Jeremy informed us that they could do the appraisal on one of the parcels without actually having to step foot on the property. But I told him to hang tight until I get confirmation, just in the likelihood they're not a willing seller. I don't want their time and energy to be wasted on a property that we could risk not getting reimbursed for, or that is not a willing seller. So.
Okay, and I know that I'm not saying we don't have a plan. I know that there is at least an inkling of a plan of what to do with the non-willing sellers. I know that we're doing something around Soto Bay Road right now. They'd probably be something similar in eminent domain or something along those lines. But I think that we, once we have a hard list of what we know are not willing sellers, I think we should do another sit down and maybe even another field trip with Cecilia Aguiar Curry and see what she can do to help us. Because if it's going to be solely in our hands to find our general fund money to be able to accomplish these eminent domains or these purchases, I think that's going to be a hard task to swallow, especially, I mean, Water Resources is not exactly flush with cash. And so I think that having that conversation does not hurt us at all to see what kind of support we can get outside of the current grant that we are using.
And we could have that list of non-willing sellers presented at the next meeting. And if we want to have an agenda item to look at that list and then discuss the next steps for that, I'm more than happy to put that on the agenda if the committee wishes.
And I think that's up to you, because it's one of those things that, while it is important, it's definitely not, it doesn't have a deadline at this moment in time, such as the rest of the money that we have. So I don't want to direct you to put a lot of effort into something that right now we really need to make sure that we meet our March 23 deadline with the most impact to this project as possible. Peter, I saw your finger go up.
Yeah, thank you. I know that we don't have Celia anymore, who was a critical part of this team. Do we have a replacement for her? And if not, what can we do to get one?
I see that we have, oh, sorry, whoever wants to answer that.
I'll jump in on that. We are working on it, Peter. We don't have one sitting at a desk right at the moment, but we are working on it. I can tell you that, you know, we have historically had some difficulty recruiting the position because it's a combined combined airport manager / right-of-way agent. And I've actually proposed separating those positions, and it's reflected in my budget so that it's they're separate positions. I do have some interest in both of those, the airport manager and the right-of-way agent. So I'm hopeful that by splitting them, we'll be a lot more successful in the recruitment, which we are doing right at the moment. So we're working on it.
What would be your projected timeline on that, Scott?
Couple months at the most.
Okay. I was wondering if there was a possibility of interim contracting with someone, for example, from a title company.
So we've reached out, and we've talked to a few folks. We've asked Celia actually to try to help us with that. There's a little bit of interest, but it's, you know, I understand the real estate market may be slowing down a little bit, and so perhaps someone will be interested in looking for a little part-time work. So we're chasing it all the time.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, and I know that
I apologize for being late. You can probably tell I'm working from home. And it took me a little bit to get my computer and everything working and logged in accordance with our county's COVID protocols. I've got, I'm not 100%, which you could probably tell. And so I'm working from home today. And just in case you're wondering, I have taken 2 COVID tests and they're both negative. So I've got, I don't know what I've got. Actually, I do know what I have. I'm supposed to go fishing with a bunch of guys this coming up weekend. So this is my payback.
Well, your voice is definitely slightly different. I wasn't sure if it was your microphone. I didn't want to judge, but now we know.
No, it's me.
And I appreciate it. I know that I sat down with Scott and had this same conversation, and I appreciate the strategy that he's taking to try and do what he can to fill in the position. And I know that we did increase the salaries for that position not too long ago with the rest of our employees, and hopefully that helps out. But so far with that mixture of both the airport and the right-of-way, it's that probably has been that barrier. So we'll see what that new strategy bears for us. I appreciate that. Any further questions before we move on? I see none. I want to make sure it's open to the public as well. Oh, were you not done, Marina?
Nope, I was.
Okay. Any questions from the public? And I can't see you, so please jump in. And now that I look around, I see that Mr. Crandall is here with us. I had not noticed. And so I am passing the gavel on to him.
All right, so it looks like we are on item 4, project area parcel acquisition. Did we do 4.2 as well? Or were we just getting on to the, yep, looks like that's where we're going next. So we will continue on with item 4.2. Marina, take it away.
Yeah, so I received an update, and I'm actually going to toss it over to Dr. Lyons and Peter Windrum. But we had this on the agenda last month, and we have an update for you all on this month. So take it away, Dr. Lyons.
Yeah, we had sent this well-crafted letter to John Chu, who is the manager at the Dharma Realm Buddhist organization in Ukiah. And I waited a month, and when the letter was received by Mr. Chu on the 28th of last month, and so that is 28th of February. So on the 28th of March, I called him. I had a very polite conversation with Mr. Chu, and the update of it was that he had 2 sentences for me. One was, "We will not sell," and "We will keep it." So so he heard my plea. I told him how important this parcel was for the project and how beneficial the project was, but he very politely gave me a negative response. So I did not talk about anything else. I did not mention eminent domain or my sadness in all this, but just left it at that.
That's bad.
And I want to especially thank the efforts for the Middle Creek Coalition of reaching out to this association and you know, trying to provide support and just do a little bit better explaining of the project and the intentions of our acquisition of this parcel. So I want to thank you, Dr. Lyons, Peter, and everyone else on the coalition who took time to draft up this letter and send it to John Chu and company. So unfortunate outcome, but I do appreciate your guys' efforts.
Okay.
I would hazard to say that with anybody else, they could not but be persuaded by this letter. But having also said, so this moves over to the eminent domain list, as Supervisor Sabatier mentioned. And, you know, eminent domain is not difficult. I know what it is and what's involved, and it's a short time period until the government agency actually owns it. And the only issue is how much is to be paid. So it's not a great deal of money based on the appraisal that we made. What is it, 269,000, something like this. And it is such a phenomenally critical piece. It's way too big a blue spot on that map, and we've got to get it. So in terms of eminent domain, I'd put this up top and anyway, move in that way. It's just with, as they say, alacrity. So.
Okay. Let's see. Oh, yeah, I thought I was on mute. So it'll go on the eminent domain list, and that's just where we'll go from there.
Or I don't know if that's the right name, but it's one of the possible pathways to move in the future. It's on the not willing sellers list, and I think that there's multiple options that could be taken. Eminent domain being one of them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Since this is a recorded public meeting, I just want to make sure that that is not the immediate pathway to take. That is one of the options, unless Marina or Director De Leon wish to say otherwise.
No, I believe you're correct in that statement, Supervisor Spatier. Just as we've explained previously, our focus right now is for the willing sellers. We have explored that, eminent domain is possible, but we haven't decided on the route that we're officially going to take for those that are not willing at this time.
So there'll be a route later on to be determined what that'll take. But right now, since we're focused on the willing sellers, we'll kind of concentrate on that at a later date, or should we? How does that work?
We were actually just discussing that, and
But I
what,
missed that. Yeah.
I know that Deputy Director Deligiannis mentioned to bring it to our next meeting.
Okay.
And I suggested that they bring it when they have the time, for the fact that we really need to focus on what the grant has allowed us to do, which is to go after the willing sellers. And so spending time on the not willing sellers, while still important, may not be the priority at this moment in time. While we're trying to track down all of the people to respond, we're trying to get all the stuff moving through the state, just everything. There's a lot of moving pieces right now for the grant that has limited timeline.
Okay. Thank you for that. I missed that last part, so that helps me. Thanks. Is there anyone from the public that has any comments or questions? Okay. Hearing none, I think we'll bring it back and close item 4.2. We'll go on to Badanampati, Bloody Island, known as Bloody Island, an update from the ad hoc committee and on our discussion that we had last week. And I didn't know if Marina, you wanted to start it out, or Bruno, if you wanted to start out.
I can start it out. I appreciate the conversation we had. As we all know, this is a very important part, not just of the project, but our local history. And we want to make sure to tackle this in the most appropriate and sensitive ways of dealing with it. What we discussed multiple options on how to approach Badanampati. And at this moment in time, nothing has been selected as to which approach to move forward with. But the one thing that we did approve was that Supervisor Crandall and myself, and possibly Water Resources, I can't say what the exact grouping will look like, will be meeting with the local tribes. And I believe that we, during our discussion, reduced that to 3 local tribes that are directly still connected to that historical event. And having further discussions with them to make sure that we're not moving forward in a direction that will just have an obstacle or not be palatable for those that are directly connected to that historical event. And so more to come. That I believe is our summary.
Yeah, it was productive, and I think too, getting a chance to determine where we're going from here in regards to when the flood takes place, when this whole project moves forward, what it will look like with the tribes, and having that sit down and discussing what their thought is and whatnot would be a beneficial thing. So that's why I figured, aside from the project, because we met with them talking about the project, but we didn't talk about anything else. So I think that's going to be helpful.
Yeah. That's all I got.
So I'll say I have calls in to make those meetings coming very soon.
Awesome.
Is there any questions from anybody in the public? Corolla, did you have any insight on this? I see you're on.
Hi, this is Corolla Kennedy. No, just that I'm glad to hear that there's conversations starting with the tribes. And of course, as you know, EJ, that is up at the level of council for those conversations. And,
Right.
and I just take my direction from them, and I'll relay to them that those conversations are coming, and that they should be, aware of that and watch for a call from you or however you choose to reach out to them. But yes, and I'd be maybe wary about just selecting 3 tribes, since there is, at least the 6 in the Clear Lake watershed basin. And then, you have the 7th down in Middletown. But as you know, EJ, there's family members from all over you know, the 101 and the Pomo tribes over there that had survived or died in that massacre. And so it's not just your local tribes. I realize getting more tribes involved just obviously is a lot more, but I just don't want you to believe it's only here. So, but yeah, but thank you very much for starting this conversation. And even if we keep it focused to here locally in the Lake County tribes, I think that's just huge. And thank you for, you know, for presenting this option for a co-management. It's something we've all been in the EPA departments working diligently to get in many facets in the area on land management and water management. So thank you.
You're welcome. And you know, I think the reason why I brought up the 3 tribes is I thought about the local descendancy, and I understand there is descendants from all over. It just, when it comes to the government faction of it and getting so many of them involved, when it comes to, you know, a situation like this, I see, I don't know. I mean, it'd be fine to open it up for, you know, other tribes to be included, but then it just becomes, I almost think it's one of those things where I thought maybe even a situation like tribal health would be better, because I don't want to get caught in governments having conflict, natural conflicts. It's not, I used to call it fights, but it's not. It's natural conflicts and differences of opinion. Hence the reason why we lived not just 7 tribes, like 25 different little villages in the county, because that naturally people had their own way of thinking. And so I think to start out with, the 3 tribes were the direction that I had decided, because most of the time that I've dealt with it, being a member of Robinson, Upper Lake, Robinson, and Scotts Valley have mainly accentuated the lineage. I know that Big Valley does in some instances and is connected. I also know Elam would be a part of it too. However, we know the dynamic of them having the government along with the people that actually live in that area. There's a situation going on there that inviting one or not the other, or inviting both, could, you know, be a situation as well. So that's why my recommendation was to start with the first 3.
And I think that it's a good recommendation for the fact that those conversations may lead us to expand that number. I think that we need to start off the conversation the way that we are intending to do so. And the idea is not that we have a concrete platform that has to be approved. It's the beginning of the conversation, and we'll see where it leads us.
Yes, correct. Thank you. And the 3 is a good choice, and it does minimize that. I agree. And just know that this project's not in a vacuum too. We do talk about it with our various groups, with the, you know, Lake County environmental directors, and also the ML step with the, you know, Mendocino Lake and Sonoma tribes. So they are aware of the projects, and if they want to be a part of it, they'll reach out and be a part of it. So thank you again.
I've been in touch with one of the Sonoma County leaders who's went through a transition and trying to get some tips on what might work for Lake County and the local tribes in this situation too. So, so that's been already, I've reached out to them, and, you know, we've got some direction, waiting for some information and documents to kind of, you know, use and, you know, have a template to use for. So, yeah.
Great. I look forward to seeing those. Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Let's see, I can't see everybody, so I don't know if anyone has their hand up.
I don't see any hands up.
Okay. All right, so we'll move on to item 6, California Department of Water Resources, an update and correspondence with Department of Water Resources. Marina?
Yeah, so again, we have been actively communicating with DWR, Nancy Snodgrass. There's been no major updates since we last shared, besides the meeting that we had last week with our monument team and Lake County Water Resources team regarding the project area. So again, we're still actively corresponding with DWR. And again, just to take out the middleman for pressing items, I am having our consultants reach out directly to DWR, and they are including me on those correspondence, so they have a good relationship as well. So again, things are moving quickly, and just to not waste any time, again, just trying to streamline those funnels of communication. So no main updates on that end, but I will take any questions from the committee and or the public.
there any questions from anybody? Anyone from the public? You had a question? Sorry, my son I thought he had a question. All right, it's spring break. All right, next item on the agenda is 7.0, which is project area property maintenance. And I'll give this to the department, I think, Marina, and you'll determine where it goes from there.
Yeah, so I'm gonna fill in for Daniela. She is on the call, so Daniela, please feel free to chime in. But Daniela also sounds like a frog today, so I'm gonna try and limit her her speaking as well. So this is the same update that we presented last month. So as you can see, we are still in the process of planning the demolition for the Torrance and Vigil property. And then again, just doing a lot of cleanups as well. So that's the main one that we are focusing on for demolition. And in terms of cleanup, again, still doing actively patrols of the project area for any sort of dumping. If there's larger dump sites, what we do is we coordinate that all together and do it in one go. If we have to onboard a contractor for hazardous material, we have been doing that. We did get approval from DWR to put any signage and cameras out there to try and deter from illegal dumping. So they did deem that as an appropriate expense under our contract, just to try and limit the amount of dumping that we have. So once we get that going, we'll share with the team that we did secure those, but I would rather not share the location where we are planning on installing those. Again, just to be as discreet as possible and not let folks know, hey, you can dump everywhere except these areas because we'll see you. And then the biggest thing that I want to update the folks on, this is still under item 7, is our staff, especially Daniela and a few of our water resources team members, have been hard at work this past week. There was a large oil spill on the property. It seemed that these drums had been dumped there. This is on a property that has already been acquired in the last grant cycle for the Middle Creek project area. So it's about roughly 500 gallons, and there's a lot of folks involved in this cleanup. So we have submitted, we have an entire process of when there is an illicit discharge of what steps we need to take. So we do have a spill response kit, which you can see back here. But since this is hazardous material, environmental health is involved, Fish and Wildlife is involved, and then also the EPA and OES. So we have lots of folks that are helping with the cleanup. We are planning on bringing our contractor, since it is hazardous material. We have a contractor who will start digging, I believe Wednesday, for that cleanup. So again, just finalizing all the agreements and all the proper permitting that needs to come into play. Luckily, our stream alteration agreement is secured from the state, but since this is close to a waterway, it did not spill in a waterway, but there were some game tracks that were tracking into the waterway. And due to its proximity of the creek, we did have to get an emergency agreement from the state to do this cleanup. So as you guys can see, there's a lot of moving pieces that has been taking up the majority of our time. And I just want to commend Daniela and the water resources team's efforts on going out and acting appropriately and quickly, because as we can imagine, we don't know what this is doing to the aquifer as it's seeping down into the soil. So we have been doing the best that we can to do this cleanup. And luckily, we are going to be utilizing our funds from this grant to do this cleanup. It is going to cost a lot. So if this were to happen anywhere else, securing those funds to do the proper cleanup would definitely put a damper on our water resources budgets. So luckily, but not luckily, this did fall within the project area. So we are utilizing those funds. Supervisor Sabatier.
Yeah. Do we know where this thing came from? It just got dumped?
We have no idea. So
Are you working with the sheriff's department by chance to look to see if any of their cameras may have, because this had to come on a pretty decent sized truck, and we take pictures left and right on the highway. There's got to be a picture somewhere, because somebody needs to be held accountable for this.
yeah, and I believe these have been there at least a year because of pictures and just from field staff knowledge. They have seen these drums here. It's believed though that someone didn't dump the oil on purpose. It seems that someone put these bins here, these oil bins here, and that wildlife must have rubbed up against it because there was no sign of leakage before or any sort of damage to it. So it seems that wildlife must have rubbed up against it and something broke to where this is. So I don't think
Okay,
anyone.
so these have been there for a while.
Yeah,
Gotcha,
Okay.
gotcha, gotcha.
but we're anticipating they had to have been dumped because we secured this property in the last grant cycle. So this would have been related to the cleanup or the demo of the property. If there's any of these here previously, we would have had to clean them up. So someone must have dumped them between then and now. Hence the reason we need to put game cameras down, because the project area is so big. You know, we possibly can't see every time someone does something of this nature.
Yeah, no, that's,
Yeah, and there is fencing right now. So as you can see, water resources staff with the help of environmental health, since this is hazardous material, we are not a hazmat team. They assisted us, we wore proper safety gear, but we do have fencing around it to make sure that no more wildlife enters this contaminated area, and then visqueen is laid down as well. So again, it is secured right now, but they are planning on doing, and they've done some pre-cleanup previously, but we are planning on doing the actual cleanup on Wednesday of this week.
I have another quick question.
Yes.
So I know that Daniela's been updating us with maintenance and whatnot of the area because of the ownership of properties. And here is a property where, from what you're telling me, it looks like the drum's been there for a while. Do we have any other properties that have things that don't belong that we need to figure out how to clean up? Because a part of me is thinking that we should have cleaned this up before it became the problem that it's become, and the problem is a whole lot worse. And I know that it's money, it's staffing, it's time, but then here we are looking at a pretty somewhat catastrophic situation for the area. I didn't realize it was in the Middle Creek area. I got a picture from Public Health Director Portney, who was very happy that because it's on our property, it's easier for us to take action and move rather than waiting for approval from others or going through the summary abatement, which is still problematic. But I'm just kind of checking in. Do we know of any other type of situations where there's debris that we need to figure out how to get rid of sooner than later so we don't have other issues like this?
So, and that's one thing that when we go out, we do routine monitoring of the project area. So when we have the larger debris and dump sites, that's where we go out and we get a contractor out there for removal. Now, things of this nature, we just can't use any contractor. We have to get a hazardous specialist. The one that we are using now was recommended to us by Fish and Wildlife. It's the one that they use for spills of this nature. So right now we don't have any that we have identified, but that's why it's so important for our staff to go out there and get out in the field and see these things, because as we know, one day we'll go out there on a Friday and do just, a monitor of the project area. And then the following Monday, there'll be a car dumped. So things of those nature, we do report those if it's something that we need assistance from a different department or a contractor. So right now, we're not aware of any others, but if folks are informed of things of that nature and you think it's in the project area, please send us an email or give us a call, because in that way we can go get eyes on it and then to try and prevent, exactly as you said, Supervisor, this from happening.
Yeah.
And then
Wow.
Crow's hand was raised.
Corolla, yes, please unmute and yeah, I don't see. There we go. I see you now.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
it was just follow up to what Bruno had, suggested as to what other properties have this situation that has been identified and not attended to. That's a serious issue. You have hitch right now spawning up Middle Creek. And today my people are out looking on the, on the Highway 20 crossing, and there's 6 dead carp. So you may want to go look and see how much this really did make it into the creek, or if it didn't. But yeah, you have 6. Yeah. So we have fish dying along Middle Creek right now, but it is a concern, big time. But
Yeah. And that's a good point, Corolla. So, that's why we are working closely with Fish and Wildlife. They've had a few folks come out and actually do assessments on the possible damage, to not only this exact dumping site, but the relating environment as well, including the creek, especially due to the hitch that are spawning right now.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out where exactly this is.
Looks like,
I'll
looks like
what's
all those
that?
cars are parked on a levee.
Mhm.
Yeah. Okay. Wow, that's sad. All right. Any other questions or comments? Yeah, what I think about is like, I remember being in the military, we'd spill oil on, different areas, and it would, to them, it was just so simple as putting sand on it, you know what I mean? Or kitty litter or whatever. But with situations like this, it's not, and, even in different countries having these situations, at times they would be left out like this, and so, I don't know. I worry, because I know this isn't the only place. I know this isn't it. There's so many more, and in talking with the stormwater group, it's just, yeah, it's detrimental to the nutrients. This would affect the nutrients, right, Marina, in the lake. So yeah. All right, I'll stop. Let's see. We'll move on to Army Corps of Engineers, and I think this is Harry.
Yeah, so I've been in contact with Dylan Van Dyne, who is our project manager. I sent him in March the updated tracker map. I sent him the Department of Water Resources letter signed by Scott DeLeon to Congressman Thompson for our urging our project to be included in the priority list for the District 5 for the reauthorization of the Water Resources Development Act. So the Army Corps knows that we're in contact with our congressman. I had a conversation with Dylan describing to him the good news of the redistricting that put us, the entire county, in Congressman Thompson's jurisdiction, and briefly described our history with Mike. I informed him of our plan to have our team have a presentation of the Board of Supervisors tomorrow, so that the letter of intent to Colonel Handura, who is the chief of the Sacramento district, would receive our letter of intent with the signatures of the supervisors. And I also sent him the third quarter report from the DWR grant. I follow that up with some questions to Dylan. I wanted to know about the most recent report from the Army Corps to Congress on future water resource developments. This is an annual report that I need to check each year to see if we're included. We get included in the appendix, and it's good that we're not in the body of the document, but in the appendix, because the appendix is where they put projects that have already been approved by Congress. Our project has already been approved through the WRDA, the Water Resources Development Act. So it's just a reminder to the Corps that that we have the intent, that the non-federal sponsor has the intent of following through on our responsibilities. So I wanted to check on that. And I wanted to check on the Army Corps listing us once again in desired projects to be included in the work list for 2022. And Dylan hasn't gotten back to me on that. He's forwarded that to some other folks that are going to get answers for me. So we have our communication with the Army Corps in making them aware that we are very much interested in this, making them aware that we are acquiring property, and as I'll describe to the Board of Supervisors tomorrow, making them aware that we are getting more attractive by the minute in terms of property acquisition and readiness. So that's where we are with the Corps.
Awesome.
Thank you, Harry. Are there any questions? I don't see any anyone from the public. All right. Thanks again, Harry. Appreciate your work on that. So we'll move on to, I'm not sure if it's item 9 or PG&E is the next one. I just know that. So any updates on PG&E? I don't have any. Does anybody else have any? No. All right. With that, item 11, legislative. Any updates on that?
So this should be taken out. We shared this last month, so apologize.
Okay.
But no update. So we did send that letter to Congressman Thompson's office, and we have not received any follow-up on that. So
Okay. All right.
Do you want us to seek out a response to that?
from my understanding, I don't think that they were gonna send any follow-up. I know that they were just taking requests. It would be nice if they did select our project. I would assume that we would receive follow-up, but I don't know what their timeline for actually deciding on which projects they want to submit, and which ones they want to, not. So I think it's fine if we don't right now.
All right. With that, I'm not seeing any questions from anyone else.
No further correspondence at this moment.
And then Valerie had stated, do we send periodic updates to state representatives? And from what I understand, I think that's tomorrow's report that goes to them, I think, right?
And we've been sending them the quarterlies,
Yeah.
and things like that. So we want to make sure our federal representatives and our state representatives are up to date as to what our activity is.
Right. All right. And so we'll close that item to 12, project funding.
Same status as before.
Same status as before.
We have $800,000 set aside.
At least we got that. So, well, any questions on that from the public? All right. Caltrans. None from me.
I have nothing new for Caltrans at the moment.
Me neither. Public expression.
So just wanted to let you know, Chair, that we added an extra item to discuss the future agendas or future meetings.
Okay. Oh, yeah, I think it's on the agenda, discussion on meeting schedule. I don't know if that's the same thing or.
Oh, I thought I didn't. How did I not see that?
I just seen it just now.
We have it as a non-timed item.
Ignore the extra item.
I didn't know until just now. I seen on non-timed items it said that, and I don't know if that's what that meant or where we can go with that.
No, that's what it means.
Okay, so yeah, I think the discussion is in order to allow some of the work to be conducted in the department, having quarterly meetings rather than monthly, so that way some of the work that they're doing can kind of catch up with what they're working on. For example, continuously preparing for these meetings takes a lot of time from business as usual. And so if there's anything pressing, we're looking at trying to have something in the line of a special meeting, or we can just count basically on emails until that meeting comes and go from there. And so I didn't know if anyone else had anything else. Marina, if you did, or Bruno.
Yeah, I'll add to it. I think that a lot of, for example, for today, a lot of the updates are simple updates. I think that on a monthly basis, we can do an email update, especially if we get like the spreadsheet to show us how things are progressing for each property. And then every 3 months, once a quarter, that we do have a meeting face to face or on Zoom, however is still the easiest. But I do know that we're getting closer and closer. We now have less than a year. We have just over a year left until our expiration for this extension. And I think that we need to make sure that our staff is focused as much as possible on getting the work done rather than just reporting out to us, not only preparing for these meetings, but then being in these meetings. I just think that we can wait for a much larger update and have monthly email addressing the updates.
May I comment on that?
Yes,
Um,
Peter.
I so appreciate the fact that and I think Supervisor Sabatier and Supervisor Crandall, that you initiated the practice of having these meetings. I'll tell you this, my own view is this project would not be even close to where we are, but for the fact of these meetings. And I would suggest as a compromise that between now for the remainder of this next year, that perhaps a meeting every 2 months would be appropriate, but I would not strongly suggest you not extend it to a quarter. This project has suffered terribly, terribly, terribly by the fact that it has not been, how do I want to say this? We didn't stay on top of it from the very beginning. And that's what we're doing catch up last minute. Thankfully, Marina and Daniela are leading this effort, albeit understaffed. But I think it's important for accountability. Every 2 months would be fine, but I think once a quarter, that would mean that there are only 3 meetings between now and the time that this contract is up. And I suggest that might not be frequently enough. So that would be my comment on that.
Okay. Any other comments?
And
Yeah, I wanted to say that I see that as a good compromise. So every 2 months. The other thing I worry about is if I email my fellow committee members, how do I keep from getting in trouble with the Brown Act? As long as I just send you information and ask you questions, as long as I'm not asking for a decision of some sort or an action item, can I email you what I need to email you each month?
For the Brown Act, I would say if it's public information, that there's no problem with sharing public information. Questions and comments, I would suggest can go directly to staff, and then staff can maybe provide that to the rest of us if it is not an opinion of a member and more of a statement of things that are happening or things to come. I know that's the way that I've typically have had it handled, both at the city of Clear Lake and the county, is that our point person and staff kind of figures out if this is information that can be provided to the rest without a Brown Act violation, or if it needs to be put on an agenda and then provided as a commentary as to what's going on and why.
And I noticed that the Marina has asked that when we do communicate with her, that we carbon copy Daniela. So I'm hip to that, and so that's where some questions or information would go.
And going off of that, so as Supervisor Spatier said, so there would be monthly updates coming out of, and it would be the same format. So if there's an update from Army Corps, Dr. Lyons, you would send that to me. And I would include that in the monthly update on the Middle Creek project if we did go this route. So folks would still be kept in the light of what is moving forward. But just as some input, so between myself and then Water Resources staff, you're looking at least 10 hours of prep, planning, and involvement for myself of the preparation of these meetings, whether it be prepping all the material, doing all the correspondence, building the agenda, reviewing the summaries, meeting summaries, sitting here, and then 10 hours of Daniela's time and so on. So that's roughly 20 hours a month that is taken out of actually doing, project that, like, for example, Daniela and I are heading right after this to that oil spill site to follow up with that cleanup and whatnot. So that's time taken away from actually, following up with Jeremy, going out, making those field visits with the parcel owner. So this is by no means any excuse to get out of these meetings, but as Supervisor Spatier said, we have a quick timeline coming up, and we need to put all effort into doing this while making sure that the community and the committee is involved of the next step. So If a special project does, or if a special meeting does come to be, then we would, of course, follow the Brown Act, make sure that folks are well aware that we will be having a meeting if any voting needs to happen on behalf of the committee for this project.
And as far as where we came from, we are absolutely, I agree with Peter's remarks that in comparison to where we were before, we didn't have a contract with Paragon. We didn't have a contract with Monument. We've had some good discussions on how to rattle some cages to be able to move things around and push things forward. I think that we are at a point where pushing is not the same type of pushing. Right now, pushing means asking more from staff who is already at full capacity, but they are doing the work that's needed, and we are seeing some progress, albeit it is slow, but the process itself is slow, and the state isn't helping with their COVID-19 process is still in place. But I think that we are in a vastly different position today. And I don't disagree with the 2 months. I'm okay with doing it every 2 months rather than once a quarter. But just to make sure that we are freeing up staff to pursue and continue the work that we are hearing about in these meetings, rather than meeting to meet to discuss the progress that's being made. I think that I believe that we are aiming and working towards the goals that we all have together as an aggregate, and it's going to be difficult to reach those goals with the timeline that we already have at this moment in time. So that's why I was looking for alleviating a little bit, but not losing the committee and not losing our ability as well to provide that input and provide that direction if needs be.
All right. Any other comments? All right. Public? All right. So
So if possible, since we're taking a change, I'd like to make a motion that we meet once every 2 months.
So there's a motion.
That we change our committee's usual.
So I have a question. I put it in the chat and it didn't get answered. So the idea is that the public's completely left out of the loop unless there's a meeting, correct? So you'll have these updates, but they'll only go to the committee members.
No,
Well, we will still have meetings once every 2 months, and
Right,
those
but
meetings are open to the
Talk
public.
about it was mentioned that there'd be emails circulated, but with updates, but that would only be to the committee members, correct?
that is incorrect, Mary Jo. So similar to how we send out the meeting invites to the listserv, all those updates would go to the entire listserv.
Oh, good.
Yes,
That's-
so it wouldn't just be to the committee, it would be everyone would get an update.
Excellent.
And then
Sorry,
folks
I
can
missed
call us
that.
folks can call us anytime if you have specific questions as well. So
Yeah,
Okay.
I missed that because I said, do we send periodic updates to state representatives? And then it says, I know you're hiring someone to take Celia's place, but it's possible to hire more staff. That I didn't see the one about the public missing out or anything like that. So, but I'm glad you answered it. We're good to go. Valerie?
I wanted to see if you'd answered my question that was in the chat. Mary Jo's accidentally just came to me. But,
Oh, okay.
But I wonder if it is possible to put more staff on this project. I can tell you, after listening to this meeting and being involved in this for 5 years, I still feel pretty frustrated that we haven't moved farther forward with it. So I just want to make sure this property gets purchased before we lose this grant. And I don't want to see any more oil spills. It almost makes me want to weep.
Sorry.
And I want to respond with that. I'm not quite sure at what point do we add staff that just sits around waiting for processes to be completed. If it's in the hands of the state, we have nothing that we can do. The appraisal process, at this moment, we're not hiring staff to do the appraisal process. That's our contractors. And in fact, if you go over to another department where they do have appraisers, they're struggling to find appraisers that have the skill sets and experience that we need when hiring them. And so at this point, I think that it's about keeping the fire and the accountability to our contractors, to making sure that they provide and that they move forward on what they would say they would do. But then at the state level, I don't know how much we can ask more for them to move faster, because it doesn't work. We've asked.
So
And
I
unfortunately, the timelines
understand
don't
that,
change.
Bruno. I actually understand that, though you probably could get Cecilia Aguiar Curry involved in that part because she would light a fire under them. But what I can say is you're telling us we can't have meetings, we can't have monthly meetings because staff time is too busy. And then, so we obviously do not have enough staff on this project. I don't think we've had enough staff from the beginning. So because somebody needs to be lighting a fire under Jeremy so that we can keep going. And I don't think, Marina's doing a million different jobs, and probably so is Danielle. So they can't spend 100% of their time on this, not even 50% probably. I admire the work they do. I just think they need more help, even if it's just to do admin stuff.
Okay, thank you. You still have your hand up, Mary Jo?
Yeah, I put it up again because I wanted to point out, to me, it's a fallacy to say we can't have monthly meetings because we can't afford the 20 hours it takes to prepare, et cetera. And then to say, well, we don't need to hire anybody else because there's nothing more that can be done any faster with more people. That's not logical. So either we are not having monthly meetings to free up time that's desperately needed for this project, and therefore more hands could do it, or not. I mean, the past conversation and this one don't mesh together.
And I understand your concern. I think too, for me though, is even if we were to hire someone to do that, let's say we hypothetically find some hidden treasure somewhere and hire a 900 per hour person to do the work for Marina and Daniela to put this all together. We're still meeting once a month with the same updates from the state, and basically only getting kind of the area maintenance, maybe the meetings that we have on the side for like the Botanopathy and parcel area acquisition, which is going to be sent in emails. And so now we're hiring someone else to do that work, and then we're having these meetings. As you noticed today, we're at 11:34. Commonly, we're finished like by 12:30, and so I think that's the whole ideal, is to just
The meeting itself, you think, is a waste of time. That's what you're saying.
Didn't say no. That's your projection. Don't think it's a waste of time. I think the important thing is for them to be able to work on the things that we're talking about, and the updates that you'll get are just as valuable as they would be here. Peter?
I just comment this. I think the staffing, first of all, the staff that you have on this project is extraordinary. You just simply can't tell you how lucky we are that Marina and Daniela are on this project. It would be catastrophic were it otherwise. Having said that, I suggest supervisors, both Supervisor Bruno and EJ, that you spend some time perhaps talking to Marina about their staffing requirements, rather than presuming from where we are sitting today that it's adequate. This is the smallest staff we've ever had on this project at the time that you need more assistance because of other commitments. So I suggest that you all sit down in person and talk to your staff about that to see what their requirements are. To get it secondhand is, I suggest, is not the way it should be going. So
I'm going to jump in. Peter, I'm not sure I would agree with that. We have 2 consultants working on this project. We have two capable staff members working on this, and we have support staff from the admin, our admin, who's taking notes and doing all those things. I don't know when we've had more people working on this project than what we have right now. I appreciate the frustration. I too am frustrated. We're doing everything that we can to bring on staff. If anyone on this call wants to volunteer, be happy to take your application. But in the meantime, we're going to continue grinding. I don't like the suggestion that we're trying to reduce meetings because we don't think they're important. They're very important, but they take a lot of time. And I think we can be as productive and perhaps more productive in meeting every 2 months. I like Peter's idea, and happy to do that with updates that get sent out as things happen. We'll be happy to do that. But I believe that the supervisors have been talking to staff, and the result of those discussions is this suggestion to move the meetings every 2 months, which I support.
Let me just comment. My comments, and I appreciate the idea of the every 2 months. My comments aren't directed to the frequency of the meeting. I mean, classically, throughout this entire project over the last several years that we've been concerned about it, there's been adequate staffing, including consultants. And we've just gotten ourselves in a terrible bind. And I think that that's the reality of it. And I think it needs to be seen that way. And that the assurances of staff we're taking, of management, if you will, that we're taking care of it, Scott, is, I mean, we have a track record, and it's not too, how shall I say, it's not too reassuring. And let me add one other little feature to it. This is absolutely the last thing in the world, the most distressing, the most thing we don't want to ever be doing from the standpoint of the coalition is to have to be lodging, I don't know how to say it, complaints or warnings, of results. It's the last thing. This started off as a partnership enterprise. We got the $15 million. That's the result of the coalition's work. We got the Army Corps engaged again. Their letter was, we think that it seems apparent to us that you all have abandoned this project. That was the last communication before the coalition was involved.
Gary Olson.
Sorry. And we've gotten, and it's the coalition that's done this work, that got the congressman involved, got Celia involved. That was Val Nixon contacting Celia. And here we are being put in a position that we hate, that we don't want to be, is to be hammering on, or appearing to be hammering on staff or those responsible. That's just an awful spot for us to be in, because the coalition is your partner, and we're proud of the work that we've done. We don't want to be in this kind of position, and yet we feel there's really no choice. And so, and I suppose in part my comments to Supervisor Sabatier and Supervisor Crandall, you guys, let's say you and your cohorts, the buck stops with you all. And it's just been really unfortunate. And I so appreciate what you all have done to kind of get this thing going, but we haven't been well served, I think, the project, to put us in this position, because what we're supposed to be doing is getting more money. That's the bottom line, not just property acquisition, everything. That's what the coalition does. That's what it's done on its part. And so anyway, I'm going to stop talking, but that's where I am. I'm sorry about that.
I've seen another comment says, if the county wants to have less meetings, then the electric files need to be more available to the public. And so I think, in what aspect is that, Corolla? Because I know when I look on the website and I look on the county website in regard to Middle Creek Restoration and the videos and and the maps and things like that, they seem to be available. Which area are you pertaining to?
Well, and I don't know if this is open to public access or not, but that's, your acquisition spreadsheet that you guys work on, your updates on DWRs, the grants. I realize, you discussed time and how it's heavily time conducive for you to be part of a meeting. Well, it's double if you have to go back and re-listen to it to get documents. So it would help us that also are out here doing the work, do the work too. I appreciate that you want to help, be more equitable with your time, as I do too. So yeah, anything you could do on that level to help to make them more accessible. Because listening to an hour and a half long meeting just to get a snapshot of what came up on a presentation doesn't really work. So yeah, if there could be more attachments and files that we can actually open and look at and read would be better.
I believe, Marina, correct me if I'm wrong, that there is a way to sign up to be on the list of recipients for those emails, right?
Yes, and that's correct. So everyone that's on this call, I know, is on that list of recipients, because I'm the one that sends that list out, and I have that listserv handy. Carl, going off of what you said, I agree. We do need to do a better job of putting all those attachments on. So what I'm doing now is I'm guiding staff, our admin staff, on how to upload that to the website, because they don't have all those handy. I have to be the one to funnel that information to them, and then working on getting, we're working on that spreadsheet to make sure that the information that can't be shared with the public on those parcels are in a format that we can still make that public, but white out any sort of private information for these parcel owners, such as their emails address, their phone numbers, etc. So we're working on that. But again, that comes down to me and Daniela being able to direct admin staff on doing that, because they need the guidance to do that. So at that point, it's better off just me doing it in some of those cases.
Right. No, I get that. And yeah, but just more access to documents of what's going on with the project itself. Because as was pointed out, we'll just be missing, 1 month of updates of what's happening. But yeah, thank you.
Mary Jo, you had your hand up.
Yeah, I'm glad. I was going to be about the spreadsheet, because I'd asked last time if there could be public access and was told no, because it's got private information. I was going to point out it's a spreadsheet. You can hide things. So I'm thrilled that that's going to happen, because that has been a huge frustration. I've been, frankly, trying to take pictures, because you have it on video, but the video is such crappy quality, I can't see a single thing on the spreadsheet on the video from the meeting. I actually took the time to do that, because that's how important those spreadsheets are to my knowledge of what's going on, and sharing it with the coalition and the land trust and the RCD. And so I'm thrilled that's going to happen.
And that was one reason why I decided to go to the route of doing the presentation. I heard the frustration from folks on these calls that it's hard to follow along. So my objective is, and what we're doing now is I'm compiling. So everything that we send out to the listserv on all the attachments that we have, we'll be putting that as an attachment on the Water Resources website. So combining it, because there it's easy and you guys can see it. So that was one thing that I took into consideration, and trying to cater it so I can, so you don't have to go back to the presentations or take screenshots. I agree. That's not efficient.
So what happened to the map that Civic Spark person would, it was great. You could click on and find all this information. I can't find that map anywhere.
Yeah, so Mary Jo, that's one of the maps that we share. Daniela has taken that map and updated it, and that's the one that we update every time there's an update on any sort of parcel acquisition, and that's on the Water Resources website.
But you can't click on it and get the kind of information that he was demonstrating, can you? Because something's wrong with my clicker. That's
It's a PDF file.
It's a PDF, because the one that he could click on and was interactive, that was an internal map, because again, there's private information from those parcel owners that we cannot share, such as their mailing address or whatnot. So if there's recommendations on what do you guys want to see in a map, that's what we need to know, and we can cater that. So if you're having issues tracking it, again, we have this project area, so you can go on our Water Resources website and click on that.
It's not terribly informative. So
So let
What
us
would
know
you
what
need
you
to
would-
know from that though?
Yeah,
I mean, like,
let us
like,
know what you would need to know, so then we can make those modifications.
Okay, good deal. I will.
And we'd prefer that in writing if you could, because again, then we go back and that's
Oh,
what
yeah.
we look at.
Email. I love email.
right. Thank you. And so looking like we don't have anyone else with their hands up, but I do want to just highlight another thing. I just want this for reference and just for folks to understand, not trying to get away from the meetings per se for updates, or it's not that it's not important or anything. This is a very important project. This will help not only the lake, but the lots of other, the habitat, all of that. But knowing too, with Water Resources, I've been dealing on another subject with them, and that is Upper Lake has come in, and Upper Lake Town Hall, that is, and they've done this huge, massive Information Act request that's put a lot of burden on them as well. There's the Middle Creek levee situation, diversion levee. There's other projects like that I know within the county too, and so I'm highlighting those because even there, some of these different citizens are saying there needs to be money put into that where it's lacking as well. Not trying to justify, I'm just trying to give you the picture of what's going on. And so I know that they're still doing above and beyond what they're asked of. And then for me, I understand because my 3 town halls, the responsibility falls on me. I have somebody constantly badgering about minutes and agendas being posted, and I can't force I don't have staff. What I have is volunteers who are on advisory boards that are supposed to post these things, that are supposed to do these things, to do these minutes. I could barely get 5 people. So I understand in that aspect, I can't get those folks to post those. And then there's people that are making public request asks and things like that. So it puts us into a position like, so I know the struggle when it comes to preparing for these meetings. And I've been doing my best to post on those, and I'm just sharing that to even just give some light as to what it takes to prepare for a meeting like this as well. I don't think, I think I can agree to the 2 months, whereas the 3 months might be far out. Monthly, I think we're past the monthly. I think bi-monthly is just as well. So I think if there's not any other comments, I'm ready to move forward. And I know we have a motion, so we just need a second. Motion by Supervisor Sabatier to conduct bi-monthly Middle Creek restoration meetings.
I second the motion.
And a second by Peter. Let's see. Is there anyone opposed to this motion? You're not a voting member. So it looks like this passes unanimously, and so from here forward we will meet every 2 months. That means from here we'll meet in June, the first week of June, first Monday at 10:30, and with that also noting that the same type of information will be spread out through the emails and whatnot. So next item on the agenda is meeting scheduled. You have that? So I think we're on that. I don't know if there's anything that needs to be said about this, but.
No, and I just want to echo what Director Scott DeLeon said. If anyone ever wants to come and help out, come in Water Resources office, and you want to get with us, boots on the ground, go help with the cleanup or organization and preparation for a meeting, or help with the acquisition process by any means, give us a call. We're always open. We would love the help. Again, oftentimes it comes down to Danielle and I doing these things. So any sort of assistance, we'll take it. We've always taken that opportunity and those extra helping hands. So give us a call.
Robinson Rancheria offered up a truck, 2 helpers, and a trailer to do dump removals out in Middle Creek Restoration Project area.
Yeah,
So,
and Pearl, I
Keep me
appreciate
informed.
that. Yeah, I definitely
We're
appreciate
here. We're ready to go.
You and your team have been very beneficial to us. So I appreciate your assistance and your support. Definitely.
All right. With that, it looks like we're at the adjournment.
Can I ask just one thing, if I may,
Yeah.
on the topic that we talked about briefly last week?
Okay.
I just wish to announce that for personal reasons that have nothing to do, obviously, with Middle Creek, that June will be my last meeting on this committee and serving on this committee. It's with considerable regret, but for compelling reasons. So anyway, I just wanted to announce that I will be helping tomorrow in the presentation and here for the May and June, or not now May, for the June meeting. But at the conclusion of that meeting, I will no longer be on this committee. And so in due course, it will be, the board will want to select a replacement, and the coalition will make a recommendation in that regard for this public member status. So anyhow, wanted to pass that on so you're aware. Thank you very much.
Peter, if I may.
Yes, Bruno.
Thank you for, I mean, it was you and Dr. Lyons, but thank you for speaking indirectly, but I heard the implication of what you were saying to the board to say that we need to get our butts moving, which is what created this committee in the first place. I know you were asking at that point and have been throughout for a specific project manager. But what I approached Supervisor Crandall with was, I think Peter was talking to us and we need to get ourselves really involved in this and make sure that we keep moving forward. So I want to thank you for taking the initiative to really kind of light a fire under us, making this happen. And this committee wouldn't be here if it wasn't for you, and appreciate your passion for this project as well.
Thank you very much. It's lovely to have a passion in the life, and nothing better than Middle Creek. So thank you.
Yeah, no, when Bruno came to me, I was like, yeah, he was talking to us. Because he was like, I think he was talking to us. Like, no, he was. I know. And so, and just being a part of this from, you know, the tribal end of it, as the, you know, when I first came onto tribal council in 2006 as a member, it was brought to us and it was probably only like 10 years old. And then to be on the board of supervisors and to see that it's still kind of, you know, still sitting. Yeah, I'm glad that you did give us that presentation and brought us to a point where we're here. And so we just need to continue forward, hopefully get to this point to where the goal is. And again, we appreciate your time, Peter. And will you still be joining us every now and again, or?
We'll see how things go. Thank you very much. I hope so.
I noticed Corolla had her hand up. Did you still have something, Corolla? Or?
I was just curious on the, will it be another member from the Middle Creek Coalition Restoration? Or is it going to be a member of the community, or what is it, or is it a slot that's not even going to get filled? I was just curious.
As far as I know, it's a public member, and the Board of Supervisors will most likely do an open application. And then we will choose from those applications. That's my opinion of what the process would be. I don't know that it says anything different in the, I don't have the right word, but the
protocol?
The details of what the membership is, I don't think specifically states who they have to be affiliated with, other than they are public members.
Okay, thank you very much.
Anything else to add? If not, I guess we'll motion to, if there's a motion to adjourn in a second, we'll move forward and see you in a few months here.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Anybody opposes this? If not, forever hold your peace. All right. Thank you, everybody. I appreciate the dialogue. I know it's very, sometimes we can get very, heated about this because it's a very long, it's been going on for such a long time. So thank you again. Thank you for your work, staff, and Peter and Harry. All right.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you very much, Bruno. Thank you.